Philadelphia's top prosecutor is doubling down, threatening to arrest federal law enforcement officers if they try to enforce federal law on their own jurisdiction. I kid you not. Now, this story is actually interesting because we can see how many in politics and the media have confused two different operations for one. Notably, Operation Diligent Valor and Operation Legend. They're different. Trump announced a surge of federal authorities. This was Operation Legend. He's going to be sending the FBI, the DEA, and the ATF to assist law enforcement in certain areas. They're going to be a part of their existing offices. Operation Diligent Valor is where we see CBP, ICE, and marshals protecting courthouses. They're different things. But you know what? For the sake of this article, let's just ignore that and let's see what the the Philadelphia prosecutor has to say about arresting federal agents. After Trump said he would send agents to more cities, Philly's district attorney lays out how he might criminally charge federal officers. They say, after numerous reports and lawsuits in Portland regarding unbadged and ununiformed federal officers arresting, beating, detaining people in unmarked vehicles, full stop, fake news, not true. That is not the video that went viral. The video that went viral showed marked officers with badges and badge numbers in unmarked vehicles. I'm going to stop you right there, Bloomberg. Police use unmarked vehicles in every city, everywhere. Have you not ever seen an unmarked police vehicle? Have you not ever ridden in a car and go, hey, you think that's a cop? I don't know, man. It's just a white car. I bet it's a cop. Then the lights turn on. You're like, oh, it was a cop. Police use unmarked vehicles all the time. Also, undercover cops exist. It's a thing. These guys had badges and badge numbers. Anyway, they say the Trump administration response is that they're going to do it even more. No, Operation Legend is FBI, DEA, and ATF. Man, fake news, dude. I can't even. This is ridiculous. They're going to do it even more in more cities, saying that his federal agents are doing a fantastic job. Trump has suggested he will also deploy agents to New York, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, Baltimore, and Milwaukee. That's Operation Legend, not Diligent Valor. They've done no background research on this. Mind-numbing. In one of those cities, the prosecutor has already preemptively warned Trump's police forces what he will do if they bring the same tactics to Philadelphia. Trump isn't sending police to these cities. He's sending FBI, about 200 FBI, DEA, and ATF going to Chicago. It's not CBP. It's not BORTAC. Quote, my dad volunteered and served in World War II to fight fascism, like most of my uncles. So we would not have an American president brutalizing and kidnapping Americans for exercising their constitutional rights and trying to make America a better place. I can't. We are swimming in lies. This is crazy, man. I don't know. You know it. The lies are intense. The lies are nonstop. The election is soon. And this is some of the worst fake news I have ever read. Ever. The context? The far left in Portland is attacking the feds, not the other way around. They're going to the federal courthouse and attacking it. If they stop going there, there will be no conflict. They're making it up. The officers have badges. Cops normally use unmarked vehicles. This is insanity. Trump's dare to deploy additional troops to more cities, which not true, will test the mettle of reformist prosecutors, blah, blah, blah. City Labs spoke with Krasner about how exactly the city's police will be able to police federal authorities, especially when given marching orders from the White House. The interview below has been edited. Bloomberg asks, have you ever received official confirmation from Trump that he is in fact deploying federal officers? Nope, we have not. Then why say all the lies? What is your understanding of the legality of the Trump administration deploying officers in any city in this context? He said, there are certain areas of shared jurisdiction between federal and local authorities. And frankly, there's a frequent collaboration between federal and local enforcement. Often it's cases involving drugs, guns, explosives, for example. So there's nothing unusual about feds being involved in law enforcement in the city. Hey, thanks. And there's nothing unusual about collaboration between local and federal authorities. What's unusual here is the fluffy rhetoric about taking over cities. What's unusual is the politicization of a normal relationship. Oh, just shut up. That's you doing that. And what's really unusual is the apparently illegal stormtrooper tactics that have been used by federal law enforcement in Portland. You notice he said apparently illegal. You know why I said that? Because it's not illegal. Apparent means visibly, what can be seen. What you can see from the media apparently would be illegal. When they say unmarked, unbadged stormtroopers, apparently that's illegal. Except when you look at the actual information, it's actually legal. He's saying apparent as a qualifier to change the substantive meaning of the word. He's a lawyer. He knows what he's doing. It is not okay to fracture skulls with what they like to call non-lethal rubber bullets or tear gas canisters. Of course not. But it does happen when people are rioting. It's not okay when there's no probable cause to jump out of a rental van and just requisition people off the street. Right. But there was probable cause. Black-clad individuals rioting and wearing helmets and other gear were being detained for questioning. Did you know that in most jurisdictions, police can detain you for like any reason? I mean, at least in Illinois, I know that for sure. A cop can walk up and say, I am detaining you because they're investigating. They can, well, arguably, I do believe in some instances they need probable cause, but probable cause is very, very easy to obtain. They can simply say there was a riot, people were armored and attacking the courthouse. We detained a man who was wearing some similar clothing and appeared to be one of those rioters for questioning for an hour and a half. That's it. That's probable cause. So he's right. When there's no probable cause, it would be not okay, but there was. That looks like a dictatorship. Looks like. That looks like a kidnapping. Looks like. That looks like a crime, but it's not. There's nothing unusual about federal law enforcement doing law enforcement work where it may follow the law and where they may have jurisdiction to do so. That's not what we're dealing with here, though. We're dealing with a shiny object the president is waving around to distract from his outrageous failures in many other areas and to try and use his usual tactics of neo-fascist division, hate, and racism to improve his almost deceased campaign. Except it's working, and support for Black Lives Matter is on the decline, according to Civ IQ, basically around the time the riots started. Here's what they say. So you are prepared to prosecute federal law enforcement officials if they do in Philadelphia what they're doing in Portland. He said, if we have clear probable cause for the commission of crimes by anyone, including law enforcement, federal law enforcement, we will prosecute that. We are not going to tolerate any kidnappings and assaults in the Philadelphia streets. We are not going to tolerate showing up under the guise of making things safer and causing violence. Good news for him. That literally isn't happening. I can say something like this. What's going on in Portland is a disgusting nightmare, what these police are doing. You know, if I had someone selling illegal narcotics in my home, I'd arrest them on the spot. You see how the wordplay works? I didn't say that's what they were doing in Portland. But then when I say I'd stop, people doing this thing, that's how you trick people into thinking they're actually doing it without actually accusing them so you can't get sued for defamation. Is there precedent for this? Local police arresting federal police. There are instances, and there have been in major cities. Often it relates to corruption, where you have arrests that are made. Sometimes they're made by federal authorities, sometimes local authorities. The Philadelphia Police Department and the Philadelphia DA's office absolutely have jurisdiction to arrest and to charge federal law enforcement officials if they commit crimes. The only wrinkle to this is that under certain circumstances, the case may eventually end up being handled in federal court. But there's no question that the law applies to the feds, including the president, whatever he may want to say otherwise. Can you walk us through that would look like? He says it can come in a number of ways. It can come through the police because the primary investigative agency is the police department, but it can originate within the DA's office, where we then collaborate with the police, or where we do it without the police using our own attorneys. DA detectives, sometimes there is simply an arrest and we charge them by complaints, or we can convene a grand jury, blah, blah, blah. We get how arrests are made. What about the fact that the city is currently being sued due to how its own police department has treated protesters? Well, there you go. Basically, they're being sued for violating protesters' rights. This is their attempt to try and play against Trump and act like they do the right thing when they're complaining about things that aren't actually happening. Could you imagine if the feds were trying to protect a courthouse and local Philly police started arresting federal police officers? Call it whatever you want, whatever. They say acting Homeland Security Chief Chad Wolf said he doesn't need city's permission or invitation to send troops in. What's your response? He says, it is true. The feds can travel pretty much wherever they want, as long as they're obeying the law. It is also true that it is inappropriate and uncommon for them to try to do law enforcement without coordinating with local authorities. Now, let me stop you there. In Portland, they just put up barriers between local authorities and police. I'm telling you where this is going. The states are challenging federal authority. What do you think happens after that? What happens when the police are told to arrest the police. The state versus the Fed. The state suing the federal government. The state actively engaging in riots. The mayor of Portland was with the rioters, with them, as they besieged this property. The mayor was standing at the fence when the Fed said, you are on federal property, disperse. That was the mayor. They are a part of this now. When they say they're going after feds, I tell you, we are heading in a very dangerous direction. But it's all lies and it's all wrong. Do we need clearer laws and guidelines around what federal law enforcement officials can and cannot do when they're in a city? He said, no, the law is adequate. So here's what we have. These local jurisdictions are lying. This is a level of insanity I've never seen in my life. The states and the cities are rising up to reject the federal government. We'll see how that plays out because we've seen how it's played out before. I'll leave that there. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.